Why did humanity ignore us? We, the Great Pan-Galactic Alliance, had been the guardians of this galaxy for as long as starflight was possible. We had broken through the light barrier, then the space-time barrier, and even the boundaries between the living and dead. We, who stood at the top of all of reality, were undeniably the most awesome force this universe had possibly created. By the gods of creation, we were even the ones who reached out to the great devourers of the void to befriend them. So why is it that they ignored us? We had done everything as the progenitors had decreed. Initiate first contact after they reach quantum computing, offer them the lowest tier of FTL comms and travel, then send a few missionaries to preach the word of the ethereal gods. We contacted them, they accepted the FTL technology, then they let the missionaries come to Earth. It had seemed as though all was going to plan, until our missionaries came back saying there could be no converts. Not an issue, really. We had plenty of races that still believed in their own deities or chose a life of non-belief. What was concerning was that they gave us back the FTL technology, saying that they didn't want it. Never in my 43,000 years had I ever heard of such an outrageous event unfolding. Practically all species took our technology with joyous enthusiasm. Not the humans, it seemed. They spent about 4 months looking it over. Or as our in-depth scans would tell, they had it sitting on a shelf for that entire time. They didn't even use it or anything, they just dropped it in a box and said that it was useless. I was dumbfounded, utterly shaken by such willful ignorance. Oh, but you probably know what came next, otherwise we wouldn't be talking about them. They cut off all of their deep space communications. That's right, all of their expensive satellites, massive lunar transmitters, and roaming probes all went silent as soon as they dropped off the unused FTL device. When we sent a diplomatic shuttle to ask them why, they were told that Earth was not receiving guests. We pushed a little harder by sending a fully armed corvette to land on their moon, only to have the lunar colony seal their doors until we left. Our final attempt to coax them into a response was to send a warship to warp into the upper atmosphere. They evacuated the city it hovered by, and refused to accept our hails. Irritating is a word I would use to describe the scenario. I digress, as such matters are beneath me. I am an Orosian, after all. We have been at the seat of the Alliance since its conception. It is no wonder that every other race loves us so. We painstakingly pulled each and every one of them out of the mud they were born in, gave them the technology they now depend on, and led them into this great golden age we're in now. Things would be perfect if it weren't for those pesky humans. You know what? I think I will go there personally. I'll figure it out, even if I have to dress up like one of those oddly shaped tree dwellers. Oh, this will be thrilling. I think I understand now. I arrived on Earth 2 weeks ago. I'm not sure how time has passed so quickly, perhaps due to the constant state of shock I've been in. Gods, where do I begin? My ship was able to arrive on the planet unnoticed, or at least I hope so, but I hadn't been ousted yet, so perhaps I'd actually snuck in unnoticed. From the landing point, it was only a few hours of a walk to get to the city, a place they dubbed New Delaware. I do not know what happened to the first one, but this new one was unlike any I had seen before. The sky itself was darkened by towering buildings that were larger than any I had ever seen, even in the gold-trimmed capital city of Orion Prime. Darting around in between these buildings were these transports, each configured in a unique way that seemed to change and shift as they moved, with some relying on wheels to roll along the busy roads, while others would fly or crawl along the walls high above. The people were all so different. I had thought humans were the only race to reach sentience on Earth, but I must have been mistaken. Creatures of every size and shape wandered the streets, perused the shops, or tried to converse with me in strange languages. It took a few days, but eventually I came across a vendor that sold translator graphs, a small device that seemed to fuse to the skin on one's head and provide instant language comprehension. From here, my investigation became much easier. I asked many people about the Pan-Galactic Alliance, but the most I could get from them was a dismissive wave or a shrug of confusion. This was odd. Had the common people not been told about our glorious alliance? Such an idea was distressing, but my search for answers continued on.